Welcome back. Before I send you into this week's readings, I thought it would be best if we first got a little more familiar with the Greek and Roman gods. That is, the gods of the Greek and Roman pantheon. Let's start by talking about the names and how we'll be talking about these names. The first god I'd like to show you is a fellow named Zeus. Now, the name you see in red on this slide is his Greek name, and the name that you see in red on this slide is his Roman name. So I'll call him Zeus, especially when we're talking about the Greek side of the Greek mythology, and Jupiter later when we move on to the Aeneid. But expect to see both used interchangeably, especially in some of the readings we're doing. For this reason, it's important that you learn both sets of names for each god right away. Let's begin. Well, what is Zeus? Zeus is a sky god. He's the god of xenia, or guest friendship. He's also the Greek god of justice. Who is he? He's the son of Kronos, the titan whose name has to do with time. He's the husband of Hera, and he's the father of many. You're going to get to know this very soon about him. He gets around. He's always having an affair, even though he's married to the goddess of marriage. So there's a bit of irony here. What are his attributes? That is, how can you tell when you're looking at Zeus? Well, here you go. Zeus often carries around lightning bolts. And in this image, it looks like they're kind of a fleur-de-lis, but they're definitely lightning bolts. And often he's accompanied by his good friend, an eagle. He is the king of the gods, and this makes him powerful. He is the most powerful in many ways of the Greek and Roman gods. Here he is in another image, also carrying a lightning bolt that looks a bit more like a lightning bolt that you or I would identify as lightning. He has a brother. His brother's name is Poseidon, and his Roman name is Neptune. He's the sea god. He's also the god of earthquakes, and strangely enough, the god of horses. Again, he's Zeus's brother. And how can you tell when you're looking at Poseidon? You can tell you're looking at Poseidon when you see a trident, which is this pitchfork-looking thing he's holding in his hands. And sometimes he'll be seen driving a chariot or near a horse. It doesn't hurt that in a lot of the images you see, he's also near water, right? And maybe even wearing some sort of seaweed or a conch shell on his head. They have another brother. His name is Hades. The Romans called him Pluto. And he's the god of the underworld. He's, again, the brother of Zeus and the husband of the goddess Persephone. Here he's shown seated on a throne, and this is perhaps the best way of identifying him when you see him. I'd like you, for a while at least, not to imagine Hades as he's presented in Disney's Hercules. Evil with flames coming out of his head and pointy teeth. He's not an evil god. He's simply the god who presides over the dead. He's often thought of by the Greeks and the Romans as being especially wealthy. I guess because he has so many citizens in his kingdom, he collects a lot of taxes. In any event, this is where we get the word plutocracy, which means rule by the rich. Now I'd like to turn our attention to Hera, or Juno, the goddess of marriage and childbirth. Who is she? She's the sister and wife of Zeus. Yes, that's right. Incest was practiced regularly amongst the Greek and Roman gods. How can you tell it's her when you're looking at her? You see 4 people in the image in front of you. Well, let's clear up one or two things. The first person you see in the image before you is a male. How can you tell it's a male or a man? His skin is the color of black. And in Greek and Roman vase paintings, but especially Greek paintings of the black figure type, men are shown as black and women are shown as having white skin, as these goddesses here do. Which one is Hera? Hera is the one to the right here, and you can tell because she's dressed modestly and is veiled, as is appropriate for a goddess of marriage. Here's another image of her, seated on a throne, looking rather regal. Now I'd like to turn our attention to Athena, or Minerva, and she's in many ways one of the most important of the Greek and Roman gods. She is the goddess of wisdom. She's also the goddess of military strategy, practical intelligence, and handicrafts, like weaving and sewing. In an image I'll show you in a moment, you'll actually see her driving a chariot, looking very tough. Here, she's shown in a recreation of the Parthenon. She is the daughter of Zeus by Metis, who is the Greek abstraction for cleverness. However, as the story goes, Metis did not bring Athena to full term. During pregnancy, Zeus, terrified that an offspring of his would be greater than him, swallowed Metis and ate her entirely, and Athena was later born out of his head. How can you tell it's Athena when you see Athena? She's often wearing body armor, usually wearing a helmet, and sometimes carrying a spear. Another one of her attributes is the owl, because the Greeks and the Romans perceived the owl as being especially wise. Here she is driving a chariot with Heracles. And again, she looks quite tough. How can you tell it's a woman, though? Again, she has white skin. She's also wearing this armor that has many, many tassels coming off of it, what look like snakes. And if you look close, you'll see that they're waving around in the wind, but kind of their own accord. This thing she's wearing is called the aegis, and it's a Greek word that means goat skin, and it's meant for scaring off enemies. She often shakes it around. So she's referred to as the aegis bearer for this reason. Now let's talk about love and the goddess of love. This is Aphrodite, also known as Venus. Now, she's the goddess of love, but not romantic love like you might think about it now. She's really more like the god of lust. And here she is shown with her sometime lover Ares to the left, and Cupid, the god of desire, to her right. How was she born? She doesn't really have a mother and a father the way you might think of other gods having mothers and fathers. Instead, she's born from the froth which results when Kronos cuts off his father's genitals with a sickle and they fall into the sea. You'll be reading about that later this week. How can you tell it's her when you see her? Well, she's often pictured with a swan, often holding a mirror, sometimes scantily clad, as in this picture. Or if she is shown wearing clothes, she'll be shown wearing red clothes or wild clothes, as in the first image I showed you where Hera was seen with two other women. Here she is on top of a swan, surrounded by cupids, and again scantily clad. Here she is shown being born on a clamshell as she emerges from the sea on Cyprus. Let's move on now to Demeter, or Ceres, the goddess of the harvest. And on this picture, she's shown to the left, holding what looks like stalks of wheat or fennel. Who is she? She's Zeus's sister. And she's very important for the Greeks and for the Romans. She's important for them for this reason. Most of the Greek economy was based around agriculture, and most people lived out in the countryside and were farmers. So while there aren't a whole lot of stories about Demeter in the Iliad or the Odyssey as we'll be reading them this semester, you'll see that she's quite important for the Greeks and the Romans, and they would have more of a personal relationship with her because she was so important to their daily lives.